So speaking of core, let's go ahead and talk about two positions that involves the core to a system in a tremendous way, and that's quarterbacks and pitchers. And let's talk about the differences and some similarities. And, of course, is one of our favorite positions, the quarterback. Greg loved hitting the quarterbacks. I loved throwing the ball to the other team when I was a quarterback. And Van liked picking it off whenever.
Absolutely.
But let's talk about the differences because there's been, as of late, there's a lot more talk about kind of quarterback-specific training, if you will, or what they should be doing. And in my thought, what the same qualities, the same components that make a really good pitcher, what we're starting to see is kind of what makes a really good quarterback as well. So when we go through our assessments, we have our basic postural evaluation. We'll have our range of motion screen at certain joints that we deem valuable for an overhead athlete. And we have a few other movement screens. But in assessing, some high-quality quarterbacks, this past year, several high-quality D1 guys, we saw the better ones we assessed very similarly, whatever that word is. John can help me out.
Similarly.
Yeah.
Oh,
man.
We're
gonna lose our
Similarly.
Yeah. We're gonna lose our
fellas.
sponsors.
That's the
Proud of
word.
y'all. Look at them. Look at them.
That's the word.
Know how to train. You don't know how to talk. There you go.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. But
there were some similarities. Where are you going?
There you
good
go.
one.
Wow.
So there's some similarities,
Absolutely.
right?
Such nuance to
I
you
took English
guys,
3 in
man.
high school, so
But there are similarities in high-level quarterbacks compared to high-level pitchers, and that's what we're starting to find, that the pitchers that have access to throw really hard and are able to absorb the force, we're starting to find that similar measurements and similar components in some of the better quarterbacks that we're assessing. And then the pitchers that tend to struggle or maybe are stiff here or have trouble getting here, we're finding that quarterbacks who struggle or quarterbacks who maybe aren't as talented at the moment are kind of assessing that same manner, if you will. So let's talk about I'm just going to lay out some differences real quick and just the overall throwing motion. And then we can talk about some training similarities because as far as training similarities go, I think they should be very, very similar, if not identical, in most circumstances. So differences real quick in throwing. A quarterback's going to have a much shorter stride length. We'll go from ground up. Quarterbacks have a much shorter stride length, if a stride length at all, when they're throwing, compared to a pitcher. A pitcher is going to be sometimes up to, their stride length is going to be up to whatever their height is at times, right? But anywhere between 85% of their height to 100% is where a pitcher's stride length is. Now, that's not necessarily a factor of if they're a good pitcher or not. That's just kind of, the stride length. Quarterback does not have a stride length. Quarterback's probably going to rotate a bit more compared to a pitcher. A pitcher's a little bit more kind of vertical force going on. Not a ton, but a little bit more. And then as far as football is obviously a lot heavier than a baseball. So when doing that, when quarterbacks throw, they're going to have a lot more elbow flexion. Pitchers are going to be a little more in kind of this angle here. But in doing that, a pitcher's arm is going to move a lot faster than a quarterback's arm, right? So a pitcher's arm can internally rotate anywhere between 7,500 and 9,000 degrees per second. Now that's when a pitcher's throwing 95 plus, he's really gearing up. But a quarterback, and there's not a lot of research out here in quarterbacks, and that's something we're actually doing.
Right.
Shameless plug, is that
natural? No, not at all. Not shameless at all.
That's something
quarterback guru right here. You already know. Get with your boy.
Yeah.
That's something we're doing with our quarterback assessments. We're trying to get measurements and data out there. But anyways, the degrees per second are 2,000-3,000 degrees lower than a pitcher, which makes sense. Elbow extension a lot faster in a pitcher than a quarterback as well. So even though the ball is heavy, there's a lot more stress going on, and pitchers traditionally have thrown a lot more 100 pitches in a game compared to quarterbacks, right? But what we're finding now is quarterbacks are starting to have some similar injuries as pitchers from a few different reasons. One, they throw year round. You have your quarterback, you have your season, you have your 7-on-7, you have all your camps, lead 11s, right? And you can do that because there's not a ton of stress like there is throwing a baseball, but they're still throwing more than ever.
It's still heightened.
It's still heightened up, right? They're bigger and stronger than ever. They're throwing harder than ever. If you go and track a quarterback's throws, the least amount of times they throw is in a game, right? When they're 20 or 32 or something. But in practice, they're throwing who knows how much, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So a lot of stress on it. And so we're starting to see a few more injuries pop up, whatever the case, NFL and college, similar injuries that we see in pitchers. But at the same time, I think, and this is from working with more and more quarterbacks over this past years, they just haven't been exposed to the type of training pitchers have been exposed to, right? The care for an overhead athlete in the baseball community, especially in pitchers, is something that's, there's some really awesome trainers out there, and they're awesome trainers in the quarterbacks and in the football field as well, like great strength coaches. But as far as like baseball strength field, it's something that has evolved the past 10, 15 years and is really forward thinking. So I think quarterbacks is now starting to follow that trend where, like, man, if shoulder health is really important for baseball, it's probably important for me too. And even if I'm not having an injury, I don't feel anything necessarily, you can still improve your shoulder's function. If my shoulder's function's improving, I can throw the ball better, right? Yeah. So differences, similarities as far as the training goes, we kind of treat them the exact same. A shoulder's a shoulder. Yeah,
absolutely.
Right? Regardless of what the stress is being put on it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, does the fact that a pitcher's constantly throwing in the same linear direction and a quarterback has to, he might dink and dunk here, throw a deep ball, throw a post, or, whatever they have to do, does that have anything to do in how we're training that whole mechanism? And does it have anything to do with the injuries that occur in the athletes?
Good question. The only thing I would say with the injuries for quarterbacks when it comes to like different arm motion is because they're not going to produce as much force to probably tweak something in that position, right? So I think with being injured, it'd only be like contact injury for the most part, right? Now there is some like micro trauma coming up, but you're right. Pitchers are usually in one motion over and over and over again. Quarterbacks, if you watch a game, they might have like 10 throws from a clean pocket where it's like good mechanics, if you will. Then they might have like
rolling to the left,
exactly,
to the
5
right,
to the left, 5 to the right, off balance, wherever it may be. So I think all that needs to be taken in consideration. I think there's so many good like quarterback skill trainers out here right now who are doing that, right? Like they're getting the mechanics down, but that's great. But if I throw 50% on the run or off balance, I should probably work in that too. So some really good quarterback skill trainers.
Yes.
And we don't do that. Like we don't teach the throwing. We do the strength side of things. But the fact whenever you can learn more and learn what they're thinking and learn what they're trying to implement, then we can do a better job when quarterbacks come in knowing, hey, okay, like this guy, he threw 40 passes and only 10 of them were in the pocket. We need to make sure he's getting strong, stable, and performing as best as possible in these other scenarios or these other situations.
Yeah, I think to your point, and that kind of goes to the differences. It's been well documented, the stresses that are imposed on a pitcher year-round, which is why you have these strength coaches who have an understanding of, okay, this is what a good pitch looks like. This is the stuff that's imposed on them. This is the stuff they're getting when they go to their pitching coach. So it's a lot easier to bridge the gap versus also to your point within the QB. I think it's on the rise, but it hasn't got there yet. What's going on as far as what a QB coach is implementing with the QB, throwing from different positions, never necessarily always being in the same position most of the time. And then the stresses that are on there, and the connection hasn't been made between the strength coach and the skills coach or the QB coach. Maybe the strength coach isn't understanding exactly what things are being asked of that QB from a shoulder standpoint. There may be some out there, but I don't think it's happening, to your point, to the same extent that a strength coach is when he's working with a pitcher. Like a strength coach, if they're going to even halfway do their due diligence, they would understand there's enough literature out there, enough studies, enough research, what is important for a pitcher versus the QB right now, the QB that throws all year round. That's working with these QB coaches all year round. They may not understand that just yet.
Yeah, I think with like the same reason why pitchers, are intentional in their training and they take so much, at least high-level guys that want to be really good, they take so much care in what their training is because it's a very specific skill, right? So you need to train that specific skill as efficiently as possible. And that's the same thing with the quarterbacks too. If I'm a quarterback and I need to be an elite rotator, I need to be able to do it fast, right? Like I measured some of these top quarterbacks. I just kind of got geeky and broke down and saw how long it takes them to release the ball once they start going forward. And they're all about like 3/10 to 4/10 of a second. That's fast, right? And they're rotating fast. And it's pretty similar to a pitcher too. Once they start going forward, it's 3/10 to 4/10 of a second, and the ball jumps out. But in doing that, I think like understanding if I'm a quarterback, not even from like an injury prevention sake, although every training we do is for that, right? Like if you train for a quality performance, you're training to prevent injury, right? That's a whole other podcast. Maybe we'll have a sponsor by then. But anyways, if you're training for that, then if you're training for injury prevention, you're training for quality performance. And if you're training for that, then even though like I might not be getting shoulder soreness, elbow soreness, like you're still lacking something that could be making you a better thrower or better rotator, right? If you just go in there and do traditional work, now you're probably gonna get big and strong, but at some point you're going to kind of maximize that style, if you will. And so I think making sure there is some type of rotational aspect. You have to invite rotation, clean rotation, right? And then making sure your shoulder is in a good position in a controlled setting. If it's strong and can in a good position in a controlled setting, then it's going to be more likely to be strong in like a chaotic setting too. And then I think just excuse me, but I think like understanding those demands in
Absolutely.
your training is only going to help you if you're a quarterback.
Yeah, because you, to your point, like if a kid goes, or athlete, high school, college, whatever, a pitcher is going to a pitching coach, 9 times out of 10, their pitching coach is suggesting, hey, you got to strengthen this. You got to go find somebody that's going to help you with X, Y, and Z, because there's an understanding there.
Yep.
That, to your point, if I want to be an elite pitcher, there's certain strength things from a strength component that I need, or mobility thing that I need, and that's might even be suggested by the pitching coach, versus QB coach. Flip the other side, it's becoming a skill position now. You can't do it at the high level without honing in that skill at a very early age at this point. But I don't necessarily see it happen on the same coin, them going to a QB coach or whoever their QB guy is, and him saying, hey, in addition to this, you need to go get this strength component. You need to be more mobile here, just because there hasn't been it's getting that direction, but there hasn't been an understanding of bridging the gap.
I think there's a lot of like good quarterback skill trainers out there.
Absolutely.
And it's like you said, it's like bridging that gap for like the strength part to come along. Like it's up to us to kind of
Absolutely.
It's up to us to kind of raise the bar, because the QB skill guys are up here. They're doing a hell of a job.
Man, they're doing great stuff.
And there's great strength coaches out there, but as far as like the pitching side, as far as compared to how far the pitching
where it is with baseball and pitching,
the specifications.
That's right.
No, bro, don't give him that one. Don't give him that one.
Okay, quick, one thing. And to y'all's point, I know only of one quarterback, and I'm not like a quarterback person, but I do know one person who marries the two very well, and he's very successful for himself. So I think it speaks credit to like what you're about to start doing and how we're going to dive into that. I think the people who can marry the skill with the strength, the one that I do know is getting phenomenal results from it. 2, so the difference between a pitcher and a quarterback is a pitcher never has to worry about somebody like me blowing, knocking them the hell out. So as a trainer, is that something that you guys look at whenever you're training a quarterback? Is it like a CNS response? Is it more of just having to be strong? Like, what is it? That's
a really good, I think that would probably come back to some like reaction type stuff, right? Like quarterbacks, we're definitely going to, I guess the biggest difference would be like how we train like the field work. Like the change of direction is probably going to be much more focused on a quarterback than a pitcher, right? Now I want them to move and control their body, but if I'm training a quarterback, I want him to be able to move to evade someone like you, right? And so I think that's a great point. I think their biggest differences is how you train them like in their field work.
And to that, would you say that there's more of a difference in how you train? Because what it sounds like is that how you train a quarterback, you have to train the upper part one way, and you have to prepare their lower body too, because they do have to move in the pocket.
Yeah.
Is there more is there different as far as like bottom half between a quarterback and a pitcher? Because the pitcher's just that same repetitive.
I think body control is huge in any sport, right? But pitchers only have to have body control when they're throwing. Quarterbacks have to have body control when they're moving in the pocket, scrambling, releasing the ball, trying to evade or pass rush, right? So I think that's a huge topic and a great thing to bring up as far as like that's probably the biggest difference is just like the footwork. Now, we don't teach quarterback footwork, right? Their skill guys do that, but we can teach like drills and body positioning awareness exercises that can facilitate their footwork within the pocket and move around and be quick.
Because to your point, they're not always just back there taking it and chunking.
They're often
they gotta breathe. They may run a couple times.
Yeah, there's a cardio aspect obviously in the quarterback thing. I just feel like there's more of a variable response. There's more of
a full. I don't want to say this because pitchers are athletes and we train them like athletes.
100%.
But I think there's more of a full need for athletic
There's a different
training.
demand.
Yeah.
There's
There's
different
a
Yeah,
different
demand.
demand
Yeah.
you have to meet.
which is
in
completely
addition to throwing.
understandable. No slight to any pitchers.
Yeah, but seriously, like pitchers are freaking athletes, and we've evolved probably how we train on like power, explosive,
Skilled
explosive.
athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah.